Welcome back, everyone, to this week's episode. I will first start off reading Who Wants a Cheap Rhinoceros? And just to remind you guys, my name is Amy Bowe, and I am reading for this week and the weeks on. Who wants a cheap rhinoceros? I know one for sale, with floppy ears and cloppy feet, and a friendly waggy tail. He's sweet, fat, and huggable. He's quiet as a mouse, and there are lots of things that he can do around your house. For instance, you can use him for a coat hanger. He is a terrific back scratcher, and he makes a very lovely lamp. He will eat bad report cards before your parents see them, but he is not too great at opening doors. He makes a good, bloody, ferocious pirate. He can open beer cans for your uncle. And on a Sunday, you can read him the comics. He will be glad to turn a jump rope. If he gets his turn. He's not too careful about watching where he walks, but he's very handy for collecting extra allowance from your father. He makes an unsinkable battleship. But he is not too interested in taking his bath. It is very comfortable when you sit on his lap, but not too comfortable when he sits on your lap. He's terrific at helping your grandmother make donuts. And he is great for not letting your mother hit you when you haven't really done anything bad. He is very nice about crawling into bed with you on cold winter nights. And he is pretty good at tiptoeing downstairs for a midnight snack. And he'll gladly eat scrapes from the table. He is terrific at being Ben and Charlie, two desperate crooks. And he loves to surprise you. He will be glad to help your aunt knit a sweater, especially if it is for him. He is careful about not leaving the rhinoceros tracks around the house. He is fun to take care of when he is sick, and he is great for plowing your field if you are a farmer. He is hard to build a house for, but he is lots of fun at the beach. Because he is great at intimidating a shark, he is wonderful for playing records if you have no phonograph. And on Halloween, you can dress him up like a girl, but he won't like it. He loves to play hide and seek. He is good for yelling at, and he is easy to love. The Girl Who Spun gold. There be this tale told about a tiny fellow who could hide in a foot of shade amid old trees. All that most could see of him was the way he sparkled. Some say he wore a pointy hat. He had one true leg. The other leg stood straight out stiff and was made of wood. He had a long tail. He could fly through the air, 'tis true. He had magic. And when the shade danced with flakes of gold, it was the little fellow himself. Lit man going about his mischief, anybody and everybody old. Like the trees knew how he could appear and disappear, and they knew enough to stay out of his shade. One day, young big king came riding amidst the trees, and just then, Litman was hiding in the shade watching a lovely girl spinning plain thread. She and her mama were laughing and talking loud when Big King turned his horses and stopped before them. Says he, "Here, what's all this noise in my kingdom?" Well, the mama, thinking fast, says, "Oh, great Big King, my daughter is spinning a whole field of the finest golden thread to make cloth for his highest. And we are so happy, we are rejoicing about it. Don't you know?" "Well, if that's true," said the king, "I will have to marry your daughter, who is very beautiful, and she will be my queen." Kashiwa was the daughter's name. She was upset at her mama's terrible fib, when she spun only the plainest thread, and how she would weave the field of cloth. Shyly now, Kashiwa looked up from her spinning wheel to smile at the handsome king, and he smiled back. Soon, a wedding day was arranged for them. Oh, it came quickly. There was the cake and all the good food, baking bread, and roasted goat and chickens cooking. For a while, the mama forgot what she had said about the golden thread. She was so very happy for her daughter. And the whole kingdom was decked with flowers, and all turned out with splendid wedding day. The two got married, they did. Everybody called out their names, Big King, Queen, Kashiwa. It was as if the sound was fresh wind rolled out of the hills and washed over the land. Big King, Queen Kashiwa, hurrah! Well, Big King had become even bigger than he needed to be. Being young, he went too far. He told Kashiwa, said, "You can have everything," spreading his arms wide. "You can have fine robes, gowns, and friends who to call upon you. But after the year ends, and one day more, you will start spinning golden thread. You hear me? You must start weaving me 3 whole rooms of golden things." The king left her there with her mother. "Oh, law," cried the mama. "You heard that, Queenie? Kwashi?" That's what she called her own sweet daughter. "I'm so sorry for what I said. Oh, I am afraid for you." "Never mind, Mama," Queenie Quasha said. "Never you sorrow, my dear. You will see. Big King Mon will forget about it. The golden stuff he wants me to spin to be such a long time coming." All was best and good for a year and a day. Queen Kashiwa and her footman and headman. She had pie makers and cake bakers. She made her handmaids spin the threads. All bad was forgotten. Until one day, Big King came and took her to a room as large as a playing field. "Better have this room spun full of gold thread and cloth and things by dawn," said he. "Else you'll stay cooped up in here forever, and a year." He padlocked the iron door against her. Tears ran down Kashiwa's face. She was so sad and afraid, trembling all over, for she only knew how to spin plain thread. But oh, shh! Hearing a noise, she peered around, and there, a tiny man came floating. He was all over ugly, for true. He grinned at Kashiwa. He bowed grandly to her, standing on the air and tip-tall. Green hat he wore. It was Litman himself, the tiny shade fellow. His wooden leg never bended. He wore stripped trousers, and he had long tail that swung this way and that way. Poor Kashiwa was frightened more than ever. Litman spoke. "Girl, what's the matter with you?" said kindly enough. So Queen Kashiwa quieted her fear and told him her own true name and all the good and the bad and that had happened to her. "I'll help you with making golden things," he said, "but you must guess my whole name." "And if I can't guess it?" Queen Kashiwa asked. "You have 3 nights to try and 3 chances each night. And if you can't guess my name by the final night and the last chance, then I will make you tiny, just like me. I will carry you off to live in my shade." Queen Kashiwa couldn't stand to be near Queen Kashiwa couldn't stand to be near the little fella. "But sweetly," she said, "I thank you kindly. I will be naming you within the 3 nights with the 3 chances that you've given me." "Good," cried Litman. He began swinging and twirling his tail and flying around and around the room, big as the field. Kashiwa got so sleepy with all his sashaying up and down that she yawned twice and fell to slumber. By and by, she awoke. All was dark, with the moonlight creeping through her windows. Litman was right there, bowing and grinning. The room, as big as the field, soon shone, full of golden thread and cloth and things to the ceiling. And Litman spoke softly, "Queenie Kashi, what's my name?" Wide-eyed Kashiwa thought hard. Your name be Spetmis. Wide-eyed Kashiwa thought hard. "Your name be Spetmis," she said at last. "No," shouted he. "Then your name must be Obidia." "No," Litman laughed. The hat off his head did put it back on. Queen Kashiwa thought about it and thought about it. "Jejemiah," she shouted. Litman hollered loud, "No, oh no. He doubled over laughing. He. He leaped and flew out of there. Dawn light and the big king came and unlocked Kashiwa's room. There was all the gold cloth, bright as the sun. Big King was so happy. He kissed Kashiwa's hand, and later he led her into another room. "Fill this room with gold," he commanded, and he padlocked her in and left her there all alone. Queen Kashiwa stood feeling bad when there came a little man through the open window. He brought her food and water, and while she tried to eat, he flew as easily as feather floating. Bowing, he grinned and twirled. It made Kashiwa so dizzy she pushed the food away. Poor child, she fell asleep in her chair just before the night came down. Later it was. when she came wide awake at some sound. Littman was there, showing his toothy grin. The room filled clear up, clear down, and all around with gold thread and cloth and things. There were gold mirrors, and they showed Littman made of winking gold flecks. "Good evening, my queenie. Now, what is my name?" Littman asked her. Kashiwa said right back, "Your name is Nicholas." He said, "No." "Then it must be Nehemiah." And he said again, "No." "Oh, no," sounded like sighing. Kashiwa frowned and said, "Never could get him." "No." The fellow man laughed and rose up and flew away. Big King came, saw the second room full of golden stuff. He was so happy, he asked his poor wife to have supper with him. The servants bought a feast of hog and apples with plantains, fish, coconuts, red beans, and rice. Queen Kashiwa was so happy to be out of that room. Big King looked happy too. He was proud of her, he said. "So smart are you to know to spin gold threads." They ate and laughed and talked. He told her about something he'd seen. "I'm out hunting wild hogs this day," he said. "In the woods I am, and I came upon a big hole in the ground of a foot of a tree. And down in the hole there stands a funny little man with a wooden leg and striped trousers. On an earring, wearing a tall green hat, he has a tail, and he's dancing on his best leg and singing a song. I sat very still to listen. My name be Littman, oh, hey. Littman be me." Kashiwa's eyes opened wide. Her mouth formed an O in surprise. The king had to laugh. Well, he was a funny fellow. He had more to sing about, and he did. "What?" Kashiwa asked breathlessly. "This Littman, he spoke on about himself," said Big King. "My name be Littman. I am not tall, but I am quite short," sang he. "Dear mother said to me, you are the magic one, my forever favorite, Littman Bition." "Littman Bition," whispered the queen. "Ah, la!" "Comical little fellow he was, for true," said the king. After they had eaten, Big King told her, "Last time, Kashiwa. Just one more room of gold. Please now, good night," he said, and he padlocked the door. But Kashiwa wouldn't say a word. Angry, she was, at the king for treating her so. Angry also at the creature of magic, Littman Bition. For in the room, soon as the door was locked, Littman flew through the open door at her side. He grinned. He bowed and said, "This be your last chance, my queenie. You better get my name right, or I'm going to make you an itty-bitty kwashi, tinier than me." He danced around her, he sang and twirled his tail, and Queen Kashiwa fell fast asleep on the floor. She woke up soon. Oh yes, of course. The room was full of bursting with gold stuff. Littman was right there, sitting on top of the high gold pile. Spoke he, "Queenie Kwashi, guess you well this time. You only have 3 chances. If you don't know my name, you will forever be shaded and ever so small." His tail whirled round and round so fast, Kashiwa lost sight of it. And she said, "Your name is Squash Shimup." "No," and tail whizzing through the air. 2 more guesses. "Your name must be Tear Down Door." No, it's not. You better think good this one last time. And so Kashiwa thought, good and strong. She put hands to hips and reared back. She told him, your name be Litman Bityun. Litman Bityun. Yes, the name your mother gave you. You ugly, silly, tiny thing. Ah, see? Litman gave out a screech so loud it turned the moon around. The hat jumped off his head. His ears fell off. Pop up, he goes, and a million bitty flecks of gold that flowed into the night and disappeared. Real loud noise was Litman Bityun going. He sounded like hot grease in a wet skillet as all of him vanished in the dark. There was left a scent of burning feathers. That was all. Queen Kashiwa would not talk to Big King for 3 long years, and 3 long fields full of him saying, forgive me, my Queen Kashiwa. I was so greedy to ask for golden things. I have buried every padlock in our kingdom. And that's the story told. The Queen Kashiwa finally forgave Big King, and they lived fairly happily ever after. But never again did anyone like the old trees see sparkly Litman Bityun in the shade. Some elders say he comes near still, dancing and floating above our heads. And when is that? Don't you know? Each time, they say, when his tale be told. And that is the end for today's reading. Thank you for tuning in with me. My name is Amy Bowe, and Stories for Little People will be on for next week.